So I was thinking about this one this morning. I listened to a lot of music this morning, and I was thinking about the sort of best records that friends have turned me on to. I mean, obviously, folks who listen to music, you learn a ton from friends and family, and but some stand out, right? That you sort of don't forget. So that's led me to do this list of 10 records. I think it's mostly bands, but also some of them are more tied to a certain record. But here we go. So 10 bands, I think I'm going to put in parentheses, or artists, and then in parentheses, records, and records that friends have turned me on to. So to start, Guided by Voices, a band I did not know in college, or didn't know until my close friend Fred introduced me to them. Around the same time he introduced me to Pavement, Skip James. He introduced me to a lot of music in college, and I will be the first to admit, well, obviously because nobody else cares, that my taste in music in college wasn't awesome until the later years. I was listening to like Blind Melon, never got into Pearl Jam, but sort of just was that band Live. I mean, I never really liked that record, but like my friends and I, we had Blues Traveler, right? Like stuff that I've totally, I don't know why I'm showing the back of B1000 when I'm talking about Blues Traveler. But Fred, who we also call Flush, was sort of he was sort of a conduit to me, is that the right word? Discovering indie rock. Because he did not listen to the crappier stuff that I was listening to. I mean, Spin Doctors. I mean, I never liked the Spin Doctors, but like that's what we would listen to. So bad. I mean, we're into Neil Young and Dylan and Stones and stuff, but I saw Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz with Blind Melon opening. I was so drunk I barely remember it, but I think it was at the Boston Garden, maybe the Fleet Center. What's the Fleet Center? Is that a place in Boston? So thank God for Fred in college, who I met. Fred and I both transferred to our college from a different college, and we were introduced by both, such a long story. My closest friend growing up, who became one of Fred's best friends, because my closest friend growing up went to a different high school, and then Fred and I ended up at the same school and became good friends. Still friends to this day. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I would have gotten into indie rock. I got into Wilco and all that stuff on my own, but certainly the best of the best. Fred's like a huge Radiohead fan. I saw Beck with Fred during the Midnight Vultures tour, I think, 99. But he turned me on to a lot of great stuff that he still does. So thanks, Fred. We'll finally move away from that one. Next, David Dondero. This is the record South of the South, and the archivist gets credit here, Amanda. She introduced me to David Dondero, who is one of my favorite singer-songwriters. I just watched a video on Instagram that he posted of him covering a Jawbreaker song. That's a band that Amanda loves that I don't know well. So I need to spend some time listening to Jawbreaker. But I think it's Dave Dondero, maybe Dave_Dondero, and he covers the Jawbreaker song in Denver with a buddy of his who's on harmonica, and it's just absolutely tremendous. I watched it like 6 times in a row. David Dondero, super underappreciated artist, just a great singer-songwriter. Simple Love is my favorite record of his, but South of the South is very close. Number 3 is very heavy, and this is one of the most valuable record sets that I own. This is the Go-Betweens. And this was introduced to me by a former girlfriend and still friend. Uh, I get personal here. So the closest I've ever come to getting married. I'm going to leave her name out. She's a very private person. But she turned me on to the Go-Betweens. She turned me on to a lot of music. It was one of the best parts of our relationship. We had such, and she's just super opinionated. So like there was stuff that I love that she would kind of scoff at, and vice versa, but not as much on the flip side. Almost everything she listened to I liked. But she turned me on to the Go-Betweens. I think this goes for like $1,500 or $2,000. There's 3 volumes of this. I have all 3. Put out by Domino. They're from New Zealand, I think. I can't always get confused if they're from Australia or New Zealand. Phenomenal band. Lover's Lane, I think it's 10 Lover's Lane. I think that's my favorite of theirs. I don't know the records as well as I just know the songs. And there's a song called Magic in Here by the Go-Betweens. Listen to that. Great, great song. Next, Queen, Unopened. My friend Missy turned me on to Queen. When I first moved to San Francisco in 2005, Missy was one of the few people I knew. Her and my buddy Chris I grew up with. I was really close to his older brother back in New Jersey, and he lived out here. I'd spend time with Chris, Missy. I knew Missy from like a music list server that we were on, and she used to play Queen all the time. And of course I knew Queen, but didn't know like the deep stuff. 39, she used to play that song all the time. Missy turned me on to a lot of great music, but this is the one that I saw on the wall, and I said, I'm going to call this one out. So she got me into Queen. This is another sort of obvious artist. My buddy Scott gets credit for this one. Elvis Costello. I had, what is it, the best of Elvis Costello, the one with like the blue and yellow cover. I had that in high school on CD and listened to it a lot, but never went deep on Elvis Costello. And Scott's a huge fan. And this is my favorite Costello record. It's just this year's model, yeah. But he made me Elvis Costello mixes, and I feel like I'm still on the sort of Costello journey, I guess you could call it. Still discovering his records, listened to King of America not long ago. So very grateful to Scott for pushing Elvis Costello on me. I've talked about this one a lot. This one was Lane. We were in a record store in Central Jersey. It was a small record store. I think the same day we went to the one in Princeton Record Exchange, is that what it was called? Sort of famous one. But we were in this other random record store, I don't remember where it was, and I was sort of flipping through. Lane looked over, saw this, and he just said, buy it. I didn't know who Big Star were. Now, obviously, one of my favorite bands ever, without question. So this is their debut, #1 record. I have, I think, 5 copies of this, different versions. But this is obviously the record that has Chris Bell on it. And of course, Alex Chilton. This is not the record I was looking at, and this is one of, it's like a card that the archivist helped make to keep track of your records. So ignore that. Well, don't ignore it. You should, maybe I'll post a link where you can get those. This is another instance where I just had a coffee, if you can tell. So a little bit amped up. But I was looking for the Josh Rouse record, Under Cold Blue Stars. I only have it on CD. It's never been released on vinyl. Most of his other records, his best records, his other great records have been, including Nashville, 1972, and Dressed Up Like Nebraska. But Under Cold Blue Stars has not been reissued. I think it came out on Rykodisc. And when I was living in Brooklyn, my buddy Dave, that's the guy who introduced me to Fred, so this is all connecting. He called me on like one Saturday afternoon. He's like, hey, come over to my place. And this is when I was in my, Under Cold Blue Stars, so I was probably 26, 25, 26. maybe 27. And it was like, we partied all the time, right? So I like went over to his place. I remember it was like snowing. It was like a freezing cold. That's the way I remember it. And he played the record Under Cold Blue Stars by Josh Rouse. And I was like, what on earth is this? And he reminded me that we had seen Josh Rouse. He opened for Sunvolt. I think it was at the Bowery Ballroom. And we were sort of just dismissive of him. Dave went home and then explored Josh Rouse. Obviously, he had to buy the CD then, right? You couldn't explore it. Was it like LimeWire on those? I never used the, and neither did any of my friends. I don't know why, given how into music we were. But he turned me on. That record, Under Cold Blue Stars, opened me up to Josh Rouse, who became one of my favorite artists of that period. Let me see, is that right? So I think I'm down to my last three. And my buddy Brian, who I always talk about, gets credit for these two. Bonnie Prince Billy and Bill Callahan. This is one of the first Bonnie Prince Billy records, I think, after the moniker Palace was, I guess, retired. Brian loved Drag City, still loves Drag City as far as I know, but turned me on to both these artists. Took me 15 years to finally get into them, but when I did, they've become two of my favorite artists. He also turned me on to Slint. They're Drag City, right? But Bonnie Prince Billy, I mean, I've got 25 of his records now, so thank you to Brian from college. Incredible taste. And finally, from my mom. As a kid, she turned me on to the Everly Brothers. The first harmonies that I sort of fell in love with, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Growing up in northern New Jersey, my mom would play the Everly Brothers all the time. She drove around on a Buick. She had a Pinto briefly. Remember Pintos? And they were like controversial, like the gas tanks exploded or something. Ours didn't, thankfully. But she did have a Pinto briefly. And then it was a Buick, and then that car was terrible. It's fake leather seats, just... But she would play the Everly Brothers all the time. And it was one of my first introductions to music. And I still listen to the Everly Brothers to this day. So thanks, Mom. You played a huge role in turning me in getting me excited about listening to music and records. That's it. I'm probably gonna do another one of these. I think they're pretty good, right? Stories, friends, family. Did I do all of them? Yeah, I have a couple others that I'll save for the next round. I was gonna say something about like what's going on in the world, but I don't know. Feels like a lot of these videos, when I'm doing them, it feels like, how can you be talking about this? And I would say I have been struggling with what's going on in the world, as many have, as bad as it's ever been. It's never had more of an impact on my mental health, which I always say I'm going to share stories. I'm going to. 2025 has been a bumpy one. I'm as privileged as they come. But I'm not privileged when it comes to mental health. I have struggles from time to time, and thank God for my friends, my family, new people that have entered my life this year. I'm going to tell some stories, but this is 2025, as I'm sure it has for many people. It's hard to stomach what's going on here and in the world, and just how we're allowing it to happen. Do you just turn it off? You can't, right? And if I keep it on all the time, I can, you know where I'm going with this. Sorry, I didn't mean to get didn't mean to get off this topic, but it really sucks what's going on in the world, and especially our country and the Middle East. And I don't know, close with that. Next time, more records of friends of mine. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks for watching my videos, and thanks for stopping by.